Hi guys, I'm Dan at vintagevelo.org, or should I say antiquevelo.org, because today we are going to be out there and we're going to take a first ride on this antique late 20s English 3-speed that I have picked up. Now, it's fair to say I got back from L Eroica a little bit excited at the prospect of doing that 230-kilometre ride on an antique bike. Yeah, I got excited, and this is what I picked up as the basis for that ride. Now, it's a late 20s English 3-speed gents racer. Now, it sounds odd to have a 3-speed, but it does have a Sturmey Archer 3-speed on here. They were making 3-speed rear hubs since 1903, so not a rarity. Although it's fair to say the rear hub that's on here is not the original to the bike. This is a later ASW hub. Fortunately, I do have this bike's original K hub. It's just seized up, so that's a little restoration project that's coming up at some point. But I think that's going to go to a specialist for that one. Yeah, I can't tell the make of this one. I think it's a Russ because of the pattern of the forks and the dual oilers on the headset there. But I can't say for certain, because by the looks of it, over World War II, this thing was painted green, and then after World War II, after whatever Home Guard service it had, that green paint has been stripped off, and all the decals went with it. Some of the green paint is still on there. The original black is still there, and it's got the most achingly cool patina, which is really what I was buying this bike for, the patina and the handlebars, because they are super cool. Now, on the subject of the bars, there is an enormous 30 millimeter, so 3 centimeter stem made of weight-saving forged iron, but to make up for that, it's a special design. You've got a deep swooping set of handlebars, very thin, but the idea of that is that they can take a twin bottle cage up front. So because the handlebars are so deep and swoopy, that's the equivalent of a 120mm stem, roughly, when you start measuring things around. Also, geometry wise, one thing I have noticed on a bike of this age, they're very long. Wheel to wheel, this thing, or axle to axle, this is 50mm, 5 centimeters, so 2.5 inches, something like that, longer than a regular 70s or 80s race bike geometry. And you can tell where they eked that extra length out. It's that extra kick in the forks and pulling this rear wheel out by quite a way from the bottom bracket. Not sure how that's going to ride yet. Probably quite docile, I think, but we'll see in a moment. We'll just give it a quick shakedown ride. Also of note, yes, we have a brake, just the one, but I would prefer 2, and I think it's going to end up with 2. Yeah, this brake doesn't do an awful lot. It's got a very badly fitted brake line. Now, the previous owner insisted this was refurbished and ready for the road. I think our definitions of ready for the road vary somewhat. There's a modern brake line in here that's been jammed in, that's basically, I don't even know what's keeping the front up there. It could pull out at any moment. It's not in the correct hole, it's not the correct brake line. The older ones are very different from modern ones. But that's not the worst thing on here. The worst, well, it's got a 54 tooth front sprocket, just the one, 54 tooth. Coupled with a 14 tooth rear sprocket, 54-14. Now, oddly, because technically you got 3 speeds, I don't think this rear hub works, but the ASW hub, even if it did work, now it's only a 10% changer. Now, oddly enough, you don't really shift ratios with a rear hub like this. They just shift percentages of planetary gear, central spline with planetary gears running around the outside, and you go up and down via percentages. And an ASW hub will give you 10% up and 10% down if you could get it to change. But if you've only got a 14 on the back, 10%, you know, you've got incredibly hard to ride gearing moving up 10% or even more, coming down 10%, to what's the point? And now, the original K-hubs lifted up and down by 30% each side. Now, that's worth having. If you've only got 3 gears, you want to make them work. But obviously, at the moment, we don't have that on here. Also, I can't help but notice this is fixed gear. So there's no free hub or anything like that on the back of this. So to go with my one brake that doesn't work, if I stop pedaling, these are going to continue to rotate. Now, given that this has got gearing of 54 to 14, it's going to want to be cruising at about 40-45 kilometers an hour. If anything goes wrong, these things are going to turn into rather impressive calf meat slicers. So we're going to have to be very, very careful when we're out there riding on that. I think a lot of this is going to have to change. Also, the tyres, they're horrendous. We'll come on to that in a moment. And I can't help but notice, if I grab hold of this rear, I don't know whether you can see that, but there's a good, like, 1/4 of an inch, like 5mm of play in this rear hub. It's just plain dangerous. We'll see how this goes. Who knows what's going to happen. Anyway, it's not pouring with rain. There's a little bit of sunshine. Let's just get out there and see what happens. What's the worst that could happen? Okay, so rather limited test ride today. I am certainly not going to take this far from home. Aside from having almost no brakes, completely wrong gearing, this rear hub is absolutely knackered and jumps out of gear into no gears with remarkable regularity. Also, the tyres, almost lost the hub again there. The tyres are shocking. I've realised I think I'm a pampered princess sometimes. I do like a 280 or a 320 TPI count on my casings. These, I looked them up, have 22. Not 220, no, 22 TPI. It's like they're made of rope. It's insane. I'm sure we can do better. And yeah. Also, what I didn't realise, more for me, these are 26-inch tyres, 26 by 1 1/4 on here. I was looking at moving up to maybe 26 by 1 3/4. What I didn't realise was when they say 26-inch rim size, there are 4 different 26-inch rim sizes, and they vary spectacularly. These rims are definitely more like a 700C without being a 700C. But hey, every day is a school day. I will figure it out and get something better on here, because these are just shockingly bad. But then again, oh no, I'm picking up some speed and I'm gonna have to slow down. This is bad. I'm not quite sure what I'm gonna do here. Oh, feet off the meat slicers. What the hell? Ah, and that's the end of the hub. Well, that's the end of this test ride. The hub has now failed and the rear wheel is jammed in the frame. I'd never thought this one would be easy, but then I think it's fair to sum the current setup of this bike as just plain dangerous. The brakes are non-existent. The hub, when it works, cuts in and out. It wants to chop my feet off, and now it just won't move. So I think we've got a little bit of work ahead of us here, starting with getting that hub off to a specialist, the original K-hub, get that rebuilt, get the changer rebuilt, find the correct tyres, and I am definitely going to change the gearing on this. Most antique riders are running a 44 or 46 tooth front sprocket and an 18 or 20 rear, so I think we're going to investigate something like that. And also some brakes. Definitely a front brake has to be fitted on there. By the looks of it, it did have one at one point, and it's been removed for health and safety reasons. No need for that front, obviously, some point in the past. But on the positive, it seems to go in a straight line quite nicely, and it's really quite comfortable. These big, beautiful swooping handlebars do actually work pretty well for me. I don't like the rubber ends. That'll come off for some slightly built up period tape, I think, and obviously some adjustments all over the place, plus a rebuild of all the bearings, and there's going to be a ton of loose bearings rolling everywhere. But other than that, let's be fair, it can only get better, and as it is at the moment, this is going nowhere near an Eroica stage. Anyway, stay tuned. At some point in the next few months, we will have a build video on this bike coming up. Anyway, thanks a lot. I hope you enjoyed seeing me almost fall off this thing. Yeah, do like and subscribe for anything else that's cool to do with vintage bikes. Thanks a lot.